Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Convention Tea with Scarlet Rhapsody. I'm your host, Scarlet,
And I'm Jay.
and we're here to talk about Anime Boston 2002. Anime Boston, we haven't gone since 2019. Well, a little
There
thing
hasn't
called the
been a-
pandemic happened.
There hasn't been a con since 2019.
But we're glad to be back and we're glad to be talking about Anime Boston with y'all. But first, before we start, a quick word from our sponsors.
So, one of the channels we also run is called Eat the Magic. It is a channel based on running around theme parks and other places to eat food you might recognize or food that they're doing for special events. And one of our sponsors is the Magic Candle Company. If you love theme parks as much as we do, you're going to love the Magic Candle Company. They make candles with all your favorite theme park scents, especially if they're from Disney or Universal theme parks. One of my favorites is Extraterrestrial Forest because it reminds me of one of the last fun times I had with my dad before his passing. So, downer, yay! Anyhow,
One of my favorite scents is Orleans, based off Port Orleans at Walt Disney World. So has a gardenia kind of fresh scent. So I like that one.
so use the code EAT15 at checkout to get a nice little discount on scents that will bring you back to your happy place. Laughing place?
Everyone has a laughing place. Do, 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 do. Well, Scarlet Rhapsody, let's tell you a little bit about who we are in case if this is your first time tuning into Convention Tea. My name is Scarlet. I've been running convention reports, been running a convention blog, Scarlet Rhapsody, since I was a university student in the early 2000s, ran it out of my dorm. And since then, we've been covering anime conventions, comic conventions, pop culture conventions, gaming conventions from coast to coast. So it's been a ride, and we have a really huge archive of convention reports dating back since the 2000s. And Jay also helps me around too.
Yep, I showed up around 2009 and I haven't left.
Yeah,
Yay!
he's still here, people. All right. Why is it doing this?
It's going backwards.
Technology. Gotta love it, right? All right, Anime Boston 2022. Well, we don't know what the final numbers of Anime Boston 2022 are as of this recording, but it did feel like 2019 all over again.
Especially on Saturday. Sunday and Friday were way less than I expected, but man, Saturday was just everyone and their parents showed up.
I thought there was more people on Sunday too compared to previous years on Sundays because remember, Anime Boston usually operates during Easter weekend, so people leave Sunday
That's true.
to hang out with the family for Easter festivities. My family doesn't have Easter festivities, so like Anime Boston, you're my Easter party. And it's Anime Boston 2022. It actually kind of felt like a coming back to normal kind of feeling for better or for worse. And again, I don't know, we don't know what the final numbers are, but it really did feel like a normal Anime Boston. And what I did like about this year compared to previous years is just how easy it was to get through security this time. Because a while back, they did like a full, like if you had like a bag of any sort, they would search your entire bag. Now it's random bag checks. And you just go through a quick security scan. And if they check anything on you, they'll do the wand thingy. But I thought it was much more efficient than previous Anime Bostons. All right, Bento in Boston. So this year was a food theme. And since our resident foodie is here, since he runs Eat the Magic, what do you think of the food theme this year? How do you think the theme was executed?
Well, considering the circumstances, it wasn't bad. They did have a little ramen bar set up, a little like cafe seat set up. But comparatively to previous years, where like in the Kaiju versus Mecha one, where they had those stand-up like buildings and stuff, and the big Godzilla diorama.
Like you can be your own Kaiju or your own mecha destroying a city.
In the Magical Academy one, they had the little candles and everything.
It's like you're at a Magical Academy school, like the Heinz Convention became like the Heinz Academy for Magical Studies.
The decorations were really weak overall, and I'm gonna probably chalk that up just to this was planned to be a 2019 thing or 2020 thing rather, and things were supposed to be normal, and it's 2022. Things are not normal, and that unfortunately kind of happens. But I get the feeling next year is gonna be kind of back more on the track that we're used to seeing.
I did like the decorations from what I've seen. Again, I like that ramen bar. I like that cafe type of setting. But usually there's a lot more posable like areas where you can do
And
selfies.
standees.
Yes. And I also, what I also missed was in the dealer's hall in Artist Alley, they had like the way they would like name like the different aisles were like all anime themed. So this is like Asumatsu Street. And I really miss that theming that they had.
Agreed.
So like, please bring that back because that kind of made me remember like, oh, such and such artist is at Jushimatsu Street.
Yeah, and being able to just say that makes it so much easier to remember than like it's number 422 maybe 23 maybe, and then you have to run around and where's the 400s and just being able to just say, oh, it's on this character street or this object street or whatever. It's just so much more fun and adds a lot more energy to everything. On that note, in terms of my personal regrets, I didn't get the special apron, which I wanted to get. I wanted to walk around as Tatsu, the Invincible Dragon, from Way of the House Husband, wearing the Anime Boston apron, and it did not work out. Should have grabbed it on day 0 when we had the chance, and
it was right there at our fingertips.
Should have just grabbed it. Let's sigh.
And also, speaking of food in Boston, in our previous recordings of Convention Tea at Anime Boston, one of the things we always like talking about is the Trader Joe's right across the street because that's where we usually get our salads, our wraps, or a lot of our to-go meals. However, what surprised us, and this is a place we recommend because I think it's great for any budget, is Pressed. Now, I was sad that 5 Napkin Burger kind of went the way of the Dodo.
My heart.
I know, like boozy shakes,
burgers large as your head.
And like, well, is the substitute ever going to be as good as the real thing? Yes and no. Well,
it's different.
It's different, but it's good different. Like, I think between getting 2 sandwiches, I spent about $20 with like a sandwich and chips combo. And those sandwiches are huge.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use those sandwiches can, if you have a small appetite like me, those can like last you for 2 meals. So you can get a pretty good deal at Pressed, and service was really fast too. So if you're looking for like a quick service meal that's going to fill you up for quite a bit of the con, I highly recommend Pressed. And they even had like anime themed food there, like Sasuke's balls and Naruto's balls.
Shouldn't it be Goku's and Vegeta? Never mind.
Well, this was just a sampling of what they had, what I saw like right in front of me, because they're about to call my name up.
Because those would be from Dragon Ball, and therefore, Anyhow,
Shenlon's like special.
Shenlon special. There you go. That's
like you get like 7 of them.
Yeah. But I like the fact that they were trying the same way that usually Trader Joe's, as you mentioned, usually has a little sign up that says, "Welcome, Anime Boston people. Get food here."
All right, and then for the hotel, we usually stay at the Sheraton. We decided to check in early because there's a huge bum rush after 12 noon to check into your hotel room. So we were able to get in. We had a red-eye flight from LA, got in at 9 a.m., took a really long nap, woke up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, you did. So I think I stayed asleep till 3.
And I just kind of felt like more outlets would have been nice, but that's just my preference.
The room felt small, and I think it was just the room we got, because I feel like we've had larger rooms before.
We've had larger rooms before. I mean, I appreciate the fact that we were like right next to the elevators.
Except for I had to listen to the elevator every single day.
And it was. I still don't mind staying at the Sheraton. It's still my go-to hotel.
Oh, no.
For Anime Boston. It's like my number one choice, because sadly the bed and breakfast that we used to stay at also went the way of the Dodo. And that also made me sad not knowing that's no longer there. But the Sheraton, that's the one that we usually stay at. I've always had a great experience staying at the Sheraton. Just be warned, if you stay on, I think we were on the North Tower side of the Sheraton, and for some reason the hotel across from us was like an exhibitionist hotel. This is a story for, this is a convention horror
story for sure. But to just make a long story short, the building across from us had windows in the bathrooms, and either people were not aware of it or were perfectly fine with it. And I don't know which one it was.
I did not consent to that vision, by the way. Anyhoot. What fandoms that were highly represented at Anime Boston. So obviously, Demon Slayer is not going away anytime soon. Genshin Impact, I admit I was part of that Genshin Impact hype. I was cosplaying as Jean on the last day. So, like, a lot of Genshin Impact cosplays, since they're so easy to purchase online these days. Same thing with Demon Slayer, but I feel Demon Slayer is becoming like the convention uniform for otakus. And the rising fandom is Spy X Family. I've seen like a lot of folks cosplaying from this series. Like, I know we got a lot of the manga out here, and we've only got the first. Well, the anime is just slowly being released.
6 or so episodes, I think, by the time five or six episodes by the time the con started. But they're very simple outfits to do, because Lloyd's is a suit with a little,
Has like
brooch,
a little lapel pin.
a lapel pin, and then depending which dress you want to do, most of yours dresses are dresses.
No, Yor has her standard black dress, which
That's the popular one.
yeah,
yes.
which is what she's best known for. Or alternatively, you can go in her like long sweater dress. And I actually did see people go in the long sweater dress because, like, yeah, just stop by Uniqlo or H&M, just get a red sweater dress and just, yeah.
Boom, you're done. So like I said, easy costumes. That's the thing that helps with that one. But it's good to see that there's some love for the series.
All right, speaking of sweaters, Convention Tea is also brought to you by Yimax Sweaters. I got a lot of my cardigans from them. Great for cosplay, great for fandom fashion, great for Lolita too. So if you want to get 40% off your total for purchase, you can use our code YIMAC-Dame Aznable to off your total purchase at Yimax Sweaters. They got a lot of cute colors too, highly recommend. And yeah, enjoy some cardigans. All right, day one. What were your favorite parts of day one?
Well, obviously I ran the Make Mine Mecha panel. You can see our full panel room picture
Right here.
right here. And I want to point out that this panel is occurring at the same time as the opening ceremony. So when I came in going like, oh, I'll get 5-10 people tops. That's fine. Full room. I was like, oh man, I miss Anime Boston so much. I love doing panels here. And the panel went great. Everyone in the room, of course, were Bostonian types, so they had to, or East Coast types, I should say, and we're yelling out things and, saying like,
we had a really high audience.
It's also
I
streaming
love
here, and
thank you for the help.
Show. Such and such is my favorite character, and so that was great. Afterwards, we were surrounded by about 10 or so people, and we tried to talk to everyone we could.
It was so impossible, but thank you so much for coming up to us after our presentation, because I love talking to you all. Sorry if I seem a little bit fluttery, because I was still mentally adjusting to the time, but we've done this panel at Comic-Cons, non-anime events, and this is like
a handful of anime events.
Yeah, but this is our first time in a while doing this at an anime event. And just seeing like all the love and just making friends after the panel, that really meant a lot to us. So thank you so much for those of you who stuck around and just decided to like hang out with us for a little bit.
And for those curious who want to see this panel, I run it at as many conventions as I can. And we also adjust it every single time because there's a lot of little footnote series I like to bring up because I feel like they're fun to talk about. And of course, new things are getting licensed, new things are streaming at other places. So we try to update that list as well. So you'll always be informed.
All right, maybe next time we'll talk about ninja robots. All right, speaking of mecha, let's talk about the Gunpla Room.
So the Gunpla Room was something that Anime Boston's had around for a while. This one was a little bit of a different setup than previous years. One, it was in the Sheraton instead of just being in the convention center.
Chlorine floor.
On the chlorine floor. It had like 2 or 3 tables put together where people were just building kits like in a group, which could have been fun. I didn't actually do that, even though I brought my tools and everything. I didn't end up buying any new kits until Sunday because scheduling reasons and crowding reasons, especially Saturday. But the pros were in the back, and if you went to one of their classes, you could. I wanted to go to an intermediate class. They didn't have the presentation, so I just ended up talking with one of the pros. I learned how to panel line better, which is great, and I answered he had helped me answer a few questions I had about paint and other things like that, and I feel a lot more confident in my building skills. I will admit that there was one person who was kind of a jerk. When the guy was asking who else wants to learn panel lining, of course you get the one jerk who has to go, that's baby stuff or whatever. And I want to point out that like 5 or 6 of us went up to learn panel lining. And these were people building at those tables, which means there are people who actively wanted to learn and improve their skills, and one jerk. There's always a one jerk. Jerk, if you're watching, please stop. Everyone else, you guys are awesome. Everyone I met in the room was cool except for that one dude. And especially the pros. They're great. If you ever want to get into Gunpla, these are the people to talk to for sure.
All right, let's talk about Sakura Tyson.
And another panel I went to, which was actually right after mine, was a Sakura Tyson panel, and I'm watched some of the OVAs, the movie, and a little.
Hey, they gave us a free copy of the movie.
Yeah, got a free copy of the movie from the.
I used to have like this weird Chinese bootleg version of the movie. Now I have an official copy.
Oh man, I can't wait to listen to the cringy English version because wow, there's some moments in there that aren't going to translate. But it's cool hearing the whole story of, oh, these OVAs connect to this game, and they're actually supposed to be a bridge between this game and that game. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more sense, thank you. Otherwise, I was getting a little confused of why the story jumped around so much. And because I always thought they were adaptations of the games, and they're not. They're supplementary material, which is really cool to learn. I learned that there's some games that have been fan-translated, watched the stage show stuff, which was adorable, and overall made me realize like how much there is in this franchise. It's almost overwhelming, and I want to just dive in head first and go through everything.
Yeah, I really want to revisit Sakura Tyson again, because I have an Erica Fontaine cosplay, and one of my first costumes was Soleta Orihime, like way back in the day. It's definitely something I would love to revisit. All right, my favorite parts about day one. I went to the Final Fantasy XIV panel. It was run by Final Fantasy VIII cosplayers Squall, Renoa, and Rain. And basically they were just talking about the lore of Final Fantasy that's part of the world of 14. There was very light spoilers, but you know what? To me, it's about the journey. I'm not really offended if anyone just throws these spoilers. But I was introduced to a character at this panel by the name of Gaia. Like, oh my god, I'm all about her. I need to cosplay as her. And now I'm very excited to just kind of like just trudge through the story. And also just meeting like folks who are into Final Fantasy after the panel. And I was telling them, like, yeah, I'm starting to play 14. I've started about last month. And they were very excited for a new person like me to get into Final Fantasy. I got into it mainly because I'm helping this guy with his mythology panel of Final Fantasy. And I was like, you know what? Let me learn more about the franchise. The fandom seems pretty chill. So now I'm just kind of like just deep into Final Fantasy 14. And as you can see here, we got a couple of Final Fantasy cosplayers, like the panelists, like I mentioned before. We got a selfie. And what was the name again?
Zell.
Why do I always forget Zell? And then we also Tataru, who's over at the Seven Sands in 14. So I was just very happy to just meet other players because I've been only playing this online and I haven't really met anyone in person quite yet to like really geek out about this. And it was like, yay, I'm back at a convention where I can like just nerd out with a bunch of people where our fandom just brings us together, you know? Also, the other thing we did on day one was the Maid Cafe, because this is a food theme event. I believe this is the first time we've actually had a Maid Cafe at Anime Boston. So we had a couple of maids, including my buddy Anna, who did like this maid cafe cabaret show. They couldn't really interact with us while we were seating because of safety reasons, food handling reasons. So each of them went up on stage and they kind of like sang anime music. They did anime dance covers, and the food was okay. I like the boba.
It's a little too sweet for my taste.
Like everyone's a little bit different when they come to their boba taste. But I did not like the hot dogs. They kind of felt like they were just in the water too long. But I like the mochi donuts. The mochi donuts were really good because you can get one plain and you can get one with a little bit of chocolate drizzle on that. So that was like one of our food experiences at Bento in Boston. This was a really good addition to the con. I hope when things get better, maybe we can do like Maid Cafe games. My constructive feedback would be to have a better reservation system, because I thought it was one name for a group reservation. I didn't know you had to individually reserve.
Yeah, that was unclear, but we still were able to get in relatively easily, so it wasn't too crazy.
All right, so the other favorite thing I did on day one was attending the Fandom as Coping panel, because this is also my industry, the helping services, social services. First of all, I like the fact that this was done by accredited folks in the industry, and they have their credentials listed in the description, as you can see here. And what this panel was about is just talking about how fandom can be a coping device and just relating to characters, relating to situations, finding characters to be very validating. And the basic premise of this panel is like, yes, fandom saved my life. And a lot of folks at the end of the presentation, well, during their Q&A session, we're just talking about like different fandoms and how fandom has helped them through the pandemic, through some tough times. I even went up there and was just talking about how I feel like throughout my life, I have different heroes, and I have different heroes I look up to. Like in grad school, it was Elle Woods. When I was living in Boston, it was Cure Marine. And I just was just having like this very introspective, reflecting moment at 11 o'clock in the evening. Another thing that I also wanted to mention is they also recommended a therapist by the name of Dr. Scarlet and her book, Superhero Theory. So I have some reading I gotta catch up on during the summer. The basis of superhero theory is, what would your heroes do if they were in your situation? How would they approach that? So I thought that was a very interesting concept, and I just wanted to just read more of her work because it ties in geekdom with therapy. So I'm like, okay, let's read this, and yeah, maybe that's something I can definitely take into my personal practice. Never thought I would get professional development at an anime con at 11 o'clock in the evening. All right, another sponsor. What is California Cosplay Gala? Well, it is a cosplay ballroom dance around the state of California, from the Bay to Southern California. California Cosplay Gala has been putting on formal dances, ballroom dances, social dances across the coast, and we're also hoping to grow here in Southern California. You can follow them on their socials, Instagram, Cosplay Gala, or you can go on their website, californiacosplaygala.com.
It's a fun show, and you'll have a great time. And if you don't know how to dance, they'll teach you.
And he's the MC sometimes.
And I'm the MC sometimes. So you can hear my radio voice.
All right. Speaking of radio and voices, let's talk about World War I.
Right. This is one of those interesting panels because I don't usually see history panels that cover these kinds of things, but this one covered, what Japan did during World War I. Yes, they were involved, and it kind of led to their behavior in World War II, actually. Oops. History makes mistakes. And how the aspects of Japanese culture from the early days of the 20th century influenced different anime series, even from things like, obviously, Aznable is based off the Red Baron from, World War I, and then even eventually in the panel getting into the World War II influences, which there's a lot, especially anything that involved, cities being blown up, or, unstoppable waves of some sort of foreign invading alien coming in as well. So there's little things like that were pretty intense. Even covered some series that tied into World War I, which, I'm surprised there were any. And overall, it was a really fun, interesting panel that gave me a few things I'd like, okay, I kind of dismissed that series. Maybe I could give it another shot at some point. So, who knows, maybe I will. But overall, I like historical panels. Just like, I love running my mythology panel, I also would love to run a history panel at some point as well, if I found a subject I really wanted to cover. Although, technically my giant robot panel is a history panel, so... But you know what I mean.
It's fun pop culture history.
Yeah,
you're talking about, like, hey, this is a part of the history major you take, or something.
Yes.
This is in the history department, and this is ran by Haru. I love Haru's panels. He always brings some sort of history kind of panel, cultural type of panel to Anime Boston. So if you're ever at Anime Boston, I highly recommend checking out his panels. All right, Charles Dunbar's Yokai panel.
Okay.
Professor Dunbar.
This one goes through a lot of stuff, not just yokai. It also goes through various myths and different types of monsters, differentiating what separates like a yokai from like a ghost, and from an oni, and from a kaiju. And it was really interesting. It's just so much information being thrown at you, and so many myths and stories that like it kind of inspired me, that I think if I ever get around to doing my 100th story in my mythology series on my YouTube channel, I will probably make that story about the 100 Stories myth in Japan. So that'll be fun.
And Charles Dunbar, they're a great person to like attend a panel from, because they also do the Anime Hell panel. Like, depictions of hell in anime.
I'm sorry I missed that one.
Yeah, and they just have like so much energy, and
Too much energy.
I really like their energy. Might not fly with some people, but like I just like seeing someone who's just very excited to present, you know, and very excited about the topic at hand. Because I kind of went to this right after a lip sync battle, and I kind of walked in. I think it was like the eyeball in the butt yokai.
Yep.
Eyeball in the butt.
It's something they have. It just stares at you. It's not even violent.
All right, let's talk about video games.
So yeah, it's a great transition there. So the video game room feels like it did not change from 2019 to 2022. It feels like they just copied it and then updated the games a little bit and done. Because it had all the rhythm games on the one side where they usually are. It has that one table with like new games. It has the area in the back with the big screen where they do the tournaments. And then it has 200 or so TVs set up with, or monitors set up with game systems to play everything from Puyo Pop to Mortal Kombat. And we walked in, we saw part of the Guilty Gear tournament.
A lot of Toho games were set up on the walls.
Both the shooters and the fighter.
I really wanted to see if they had Melty Blood because, like, yeah, you know,
it was on the listing of tournaments. And if I was as good as I was back during React, then this would be a whole different conversation. But unfortunately...
Because I did see a lot of people at the consoles as late in the evening as we went. It's like, you know, like, if they had Melty Blood, like, hey, Jay, let's...
Well, actually, I to credenza, but whatever.
Yeah. Like, hey, Jay, let's kind of, like, you know, just go one-on-one with this. And they're like, just kind of have fun with it. Because there was not a lot of people at the console stations. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of people at the rhythm game section.
Yep.
And also, right next door to the video game room was the slumber party room. So this is kind of like an after hours kind of room.
Silliest thing they have.
No, I appreciate the existence of this. So they had like yoga mats and beanbag chairs, like right in this ballroom type thing on the third floor, and they were screening Escaflowne. So you can just come up here in your PJs, onesies, kigurumis, and just kind of chill. Like, yeah, Escaflowne. Or you can go in the back and like just draw color and just kind of like it's a chill zone, you know.
It is for those like those moments at cons, hotel cons specifically, where everyone would be in the lobby and like some people would be playing like this is gonna date us, like playing like Mario Kart on the 3DS or something like that, or playing Cards Against Humanity or whatever. That's kind of what it did remind me of, like, in retrospect. It's still such a silly kind of concept. And there were people there with, like, pajama-themed cosplay, which I'm like, what, you guys knew this was going to happen?
I don't know. Hey, even our roommate decided to, like, just go in there, bare kigurumi, and show up.
It's true. Gotta bring my brother next time. He can show up in his Stitch kigurumi.
All right. Here's my day 2 adventure. So I woke up at... before 9 a.m. because the discotheque panel was at 9 a.m. Mm-hmm. And it was a full room too. So people were excited to possibly, maybe Sakura Tyson would be licensed.
They teased they had a Sega property, and Sega very famously has Sakura Tyson. There's a lot of Sakura Tyson that has not been released. Some needs to be rescued.
So my buddy Anna was in the audience. Sam of Anime Herald, who was running the Sakura Tyson panel, she was also there too. And we just had our fingers crossed, Sakura Tyson, Sakura Tyson. Alas, the Sega announcement was not Sakura Tyson. It was Virtua Fighter. I'm like, there was a Virtua Fighter anime?
Apparently.
I played Virtua Fighter maybe once on PC, but that was like, wow. But Discotheque, they actually did have like some very interesting announcements and some clips. They showed off the Conan versus Lupin dub, and they also had a licensed rescue of Dead or Alive, the movie that was directed by Monkey Punch.
Which is great. I used a fair chunk of that for an AMV that won awards.
And because of that, I do want to see Dead or Alive again. Like, yeah, I don't have to get a new version of Dead or Alive, but I just seeing that, just kind of like just seeing the hype from the audience, like, yeah, I want to watch Dead or Alive again. Because I also cosplay as Fujiko. And then we also had the announcement for the Fatal Fury Steelbook, which actually looks pretty cool. What? And the other major announcement they had at the Discotheque panel was Flying Ghost Ship, which is a late 60s feature done by Ishimori, the genius behind Kamen Rider, something Robot 009. Like, you can...
Oh, Cyborg 009?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, the guy who
I am
Cyborg
a fake fan.
Also created Kamen Rider?
Yeah.
All right, that's an illustrious career, actually. I'm not a fan of either, but
And
like
this
I
is
understand
one of
the
his
importance of both.
first creative projects he's worked on. So basically, this anime does Scooby-Doo with robots. It even has a Great Dane in it. And right now, this is kind of floating via the YouTube. So if you have the least bit curiosity, check it out. But definitely support it when Discotheque releases it, because we also were entertained by some outtakes from Patrick Seitz, who plays the Phantom character, who's like this skull head, like with his captain's uniform, looks very gaunt, looks very dashing at the same time, but has a skull head. And like he was
Skeletor's cousin.
he was just like playing like just some of the outtakes he got. Like, listen to me, listen here, you little, yeah, things I can't say on YouTube. But it was a lot of fun. I'm actually now this anime has got my curiosity, because it was taking up a majority of the time of the of the pan. I was like, okay, this has my curiosity. I'm curious. And of course, the last thing they announced in the last like minute or so was Virtua Fighter, because a lot of us were just bracing for Sakura Tyson. It's like, okay, maybe Sakura Tyson, maybe at a larger con like Anime Expo or Otakon, they might make an announcement. Crossing fingers, we'll see what happens.
Well, because the thing is this, even if they saved it for last, it would have been probably a rescue license of the OVAs or the first 2 OVA series or something. But still, that would be something.
But yeah, highly recommend following Discotheque on Twitch, because they do a lot of announcement Twitch streams. And Mike O'Toole, the host of this presentation and also the voice of the Discotheque streams, is an hilarious individual. All right, day 2, I also participated in cosplay lip sync battle. I only participated in one cosplay event this year, and that was lip sync battle. And lip sync battle takes up most of my Saturday, because it involves like just kind of doing last minute rehearsals, showing up just to get ready for the show. And lip sync battle, if you've never done this at Anime Boston, you need to watch this at least once. Because my favorite part about Anime Boston overall is the cosplay games or cosplayers. Doesn't matter if you bought your costume or made your costume, everyone is just here to have fun and just be on character on stage, and everyone is very friendly, and there's like no fame game or no fame competition here. Like, a lot of us just come out just either being closer friends or making new friends too. So just a couple of some of the highlights from lip sync battle is we have one of the characters from gambling anime Kakegurui. I can't really pronounce it. Yeah, and one of the songs they did, Poker Face. I actually lost to them performing Poker Face, but hey, they did a great job. And then we had Griffith from Berserk. They did You'll Be Back from Hamilton. They did I'm a Good Person from My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And they also did the opening to Sophia the First, a Disney property. Like, hey, I'm a princess. Look at me. I'm ruling the kingdom now. I have so many things to learn about ruling things. And if you know anything about Berserk, if you know anything about Griffith, I see a smile on your face.
It's one of those things where it's like so terrible, I kind of love it. It's just like doing the like, well, you know, this guy's a horrible, horrible person, but you know what? This now is now funny. And I'm like, God, dark humor. It's always going to get to me.
And then we also had Merlin from Fate. They also had the Foo plush. I'm like, oh my God, there's a Foo plush!
I want that Foo plush.
And they did Friend Like Me from Aladdin. Our hosts were Ningwan and my favorite emergency rations, Paimon. And I thought it was hilarious because I also hosted a cosplay event as Ningwan, and they made a Hamilton joke along the lines like, yeah, even I, Ningwan, can't afford Hamilton tickets.
Cute.
So lip sync battle, it's done in a Sweet 16 round robin tournament style, and we got our 2 finalists were a Cooking Mama and Gudetama versus Joseph Joestar. The Joseph Joestar was a complete surprise. They were completely fierce on stage. They did Shakira. They did, I can't remember some of the other songs they did, but they were just immensely fierce on stage. I gotta commend them for their performance, and they were just looking good on stage. And then the Gudetama and the Cooking Mama, they started off the show with Milkshake, and that surprised a lot of people. And then the Gudetama cosplayer, I'm assuming that this is a parent-child act, as you can see here in the image, was quite a sight, and I will leave it at that. Make your judgment calls here.
Yeah.
And they ended up winning cosplay lip sync. They even had like their own like fans in the audience too, just hooting and hollering for them, because a lot of who makes it through the next stage of lip sync battle is how much praise you get from the audience too. But you know what? Overall, it's a fun event. So if you've never watched lip sync battle, highly recommend checking it out. It's just one of my favorites. Also, I enjoy watching cosplay masquerade at Anime Boston. This year, our main host was Squeegee. I've done a podcast with Squeegee over the pandemic. We talked about convention stories, and I was surprised they remembered me. Like, oh yeah, you remember the Cure Marine from 2014? Like, yeah, I remember you. And I was surprised they also know of our Austria skit from another anime convention.
The best skit, one of the best skits I ever wrote. That
I
no
love
one got
that
the
skit.
Joke. No one got
A lot
joke.
of the Gen X's and the elder millennials in the wings of the stage were cracking up. Basically, it was Austria from Hetalia quoting the greatest Austrian thespian of all time, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So it's just me on there doing Arnold in an Arnold impression in quotes until she comes out as hungry and gets angry at me for doing the quotes again, and then chases me off stage with a
frying pan,
which got the laugh. But I wanted everyone to laugh because it's just all the best stupid one-liners.
But all the Gen Xers backstage and the elder millennials were laughing because, like, we get Arnold's humor.
And when she comes out and starts, like, getting angry at me, my responses are all also Arnold's quotes.
But yeah, getting back to Anime Boston, unfortunately, Rhodey had passed this past year, and Rhodey was one of our favorite parts of Masquerade. He was an amazing host, and they had this great montage of the best of Rhodey Masquerade, and they were just playing all his cheers, his chants. He really was just a huge part of Masquerade, and you know what? I'm glad. I think Squeegee said it best that like Rhodey would not have wanted a moment of silence. He would want us just saying like bacon, like yeah, and just all the various Rhodey chants, like pick things up, put things down. I am Rhodey. So that was just seeing that was just really emotional. And there's people in the audience who weren't aware of his passing. So you start seeing, because the way it was introduced was Squeegee was like, "Where's Rhodey?" And you see this video montage, and this frame shows up in the middle of that montage, and you can hear like this collective shock from the audience.
Yeah, for those who didn't know, and just
because a lot of this news that was passed to me was like through the inside, since I'm friends with like a lot of convention organizers, and when I found out about his passing, like I was just completely devastated because Anime Boston Masquerade is one of my favorite cosplay contests. Yeah, but you know what? The show must go on, and the show went on. So we had like a musical opening by the Masquerade staff. So just a quick clip here of like, yes, we're doing a masquerade. We're together again. And some of my favorite bits from Masquerade, I always recommend like, if you're really into if you're into cosplay and you just want to support your fellow cosplayers, I recommend checking out Masquerade because cosplayers always bring up their A game. All these people on stage have made their own costumes, and you'd be surprised. Like even like novice and amateur cosplayers bring a huge game to this show too.
Oh yeah.
And the last time we competed was in 2014, and now because we competed intermediate in 2014, now we're master level. Like, what do we compete in master level?
I don't know, but I'm making an articulated puppet next time.
All right, but some of my favorite skits, if I had to name, if I were a judge and had to pick awards just based on my favorite skits, Scarlet Rhapsody Awards. It's the My Hero Academia Dungeons and Dragons skit. So if you're familiar with My Hero Academia, there is an ending theme where they're all in like fantasy clothing. I always call this their D&D outfits because it has like this high fantasy kind of feel to it. Ida is our dungeon master, putting our intrepid heroes in funky positions. There is permadeath. And then Frobby just starts stealing everyone's loot after permadeath.
Don't loot your allies' stuff.
Another one of my favorite was the Jean Alter trying to summon the Holy Grail. And I like how they had a projection here because it felt like you were like actually playing the game. So, and just being as close as I was to the stage, like their armor was just like on point, and it was it was just a very well done and a very well written skit. So that was also one of my favorites, just also being a Fate fan. All right, before we get into Sunday, another word from our sponsors, beautybakery.com. If you're ever curious about what kind of lipstick I use at cons, sometimes your lipstick kind of like, you've been drinking, you've been eating, you've been interacting, and sometimes you want a lipstick that stays. You know what? This is where Bakery comes in, and Beauty Bakery has just my favorite lip whips. And you can use our code AB Bento for 10% off until the 15th of this month. So if you're listening in, AB Bento, 10% off. And also, if you want to know some of my favorites, Bubblegum Crisis. Yes, there actually is a shade called Bubblegum Crisis.
It better be hot pink.
It's like anime girl, like 80s pinks.
That's one of the reasons.
It's one of the reasons why I had to get that shade, because that's perfect for like a lot of like 80s anime characters. And my favorite is Mon Cherie, and my other favorite is Sakura Delight. All right, day 3. I heard that Japanese scroll girls want to kill you.
This panel is awesome.
Haru too.
First off, it allowed me to understand a little bit more off of the highly underrated in America, Sekiban Deka, which is basically police cop pretends to be a girl delinquent to take down other evil girl delinquents and dude delinquents and criminals and what have you. And she uses a yo-yo, which makes her even more awesome. Yo-yo plus martial arts, making her super awesome. But
Sounds like my culture.
This went through a whole load of like the early days and like the different outfits they'd wear, why they did it, what it was a reaction to, into like the biker girl kind of time period, and going into, some of the more violent and more criminal based ones to like the version where, and if anyone who's seen anime out of the 90s has definitely seen this outfit, the socks that sag, the super tiny skirts, and like a sweater vest kind of look. And that was the modified school uniform look, which was into girls who were super into Western pop culture and fashion and would acquire money through various means, including being their hired friend. And so much so that Japan had to put up a campaign to stop that behavior, which is kind of crazy, but you would still see characters wearing those outfits in various 90s animes, and I was like, oh, that's why so many girls were dressed like that. It was representation of being kind of like a more wild, fashion-conscious, etc. girl of the time. Fun panel, and I highly recommend it just to get a different view on the Japanese culture. There's a lot of stuff about, we've seen a lot of anime that cover on Yakuzas and things like that, but seeing the female side of it is pretty awesome. And since I already liked things that featured girls in this category, learning more about what their clothing and behaviors mean was really helpful. Plus, it has an awesome title.
All right, day 3, my adventures. I also check out Cosplay Chess. It's also one of my favorite cosplay events to check out. I've been meaning to enter in Cosplay Chess, but because like your call time is early Sunday, and like Sunday, you gotta check out, and the bum rush for check out the Sheraton is hell. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna enjoy as an audience supporter person. So Cosplay Chess is fairly self-explanatory. So there's a game of chess, and there's cosplayers as the chess pieces. And it's really cool because you get to see cosplayers stage battle like one another. This year we had Utena, we had House Husband, we've had the dog from Yuri on Ice.
Just the dog.
Just the dog from Yuri on Ice. It was so awesome. I had to get a selfie with the dog from Yuri on Ice. And then my buddy Jessica was cosplaying as Shinobu from Demon Slayer. She had to borrow parts of my Shinobu cosplay. So I had to watch this anyway because I had to get my Shinobu stuff back too. But otherwise, Cosplay Chess is always fun because it's just funny just seeing all the random battles that happen on stage between characters that would never cross over. Like I said, the dog from Yuri on Ice is in this.
And oftentimes they're fairly well choreographed as well, which you don't get at a lot of cons.
And the tradition, because this is the last cosplay event, is there is a dance party on stage. And they ended up playing a song I haven't heard since 10 years ago, Caramel Dancing, the yeah, you hated it.
Yeah. Overplayed and annoying.
But that was like a blast from the past, just hearing that on stage and just everyone doing the caramel dancing on stage. Like, wow. Song I haven't heard in ages. And speaking of convention history, one of my other favorite things about Anime Boston was the Anime Boston Museum. Smaller than Otakon, smaller than Fanime's museum, but I thought it was very interesting because I really like reading about the history of how Anime Boston started, what the planning was like, and also just seeing like just some of the what could have been our 2020 merchandise, because they actually did have printed 2020 merchandise on display, because as we know 2020 didn't happen. Another thing that I really liked about this area was they had like a memorial section for guests of Anime Boston, staff at Anime Boston that had passed. So they had photos of Rhodey, Kirby Morrow, previous guests, people who've staffed at the convention. I thought that was it was very sobering to see.
In addition to that, they had a few of their old standees. So Godzilla was there.
Signed Godzilla too.
Yeah, signed as well by the suit actor. And some of the other little things they had there, which I thought was cool. I think if they had a bigger room, it'd be nice to see all those set up, so maybe you could still pose and do photos with them as if you were there that year, what have you. I mean, look, who doesn't want to pose with Godzilla? Let's face facts here.
And they also had like the Mothra type thing there too.
Yeah.
Also, day 3, closing ceremonies. We always attend closing ceremonies because we also like to predict a theme. And they also had the AMV award winners. One of my favorite AMVs that won, it actually did win Best of Show, was the one where it's a guy and he got fired from his job via Zoom, passes out on the couch watching anime, and he kind of dreams himself like in the animes that he's been watching. And a lot of these, with the exception of a few, are like old school anime.
Yeah.
And it's set to like this throwback 80s kind of song called Gloria by The Midnight. And because of that, I'm totally obsessed with The Midnight. It's been my favorite driving music since Anime Boston. Jay, since you used to be an AMV creator. Award winner.
I'll say this, a couple of the winners were not to my tastes, but I won't focus on them. I'll focus on a couple that I really liked. There was a Castlevania video that was just your old school hardcore action video. That's the type of action video I love. It surprisingly didn't win action. I think it won one of the other categories, but I really liked that one. As for our action winner, it was a Demon Slayer one that was kind of more focused on Nezuko and her relationship with her brother. And I thought it was pretty good. It didn't feel like an action video to me. It felt like that could have been more of like the sentimental section. But there was enough action in it. I've been in that category. I've entered things that I was like, oh, well, this is supposed to be like an offbeat or like a whatever category, and then gets thrown into action because there's a couple of explosions in it. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get crushed now because all the people are going to want, there's not enough action in this video. And I'm like, yeah. So I've had a video that was in that middle category. That one feels very in the middle, but I really liked it just because it was stylistic and how it was handled. And there's not a lot of Nezuko footage, and they did what they could with the footage they had, and I really appreciate that.
Also dog video. I also like the dog video. Contemporary dog. All right. And we're getting close to the end of our talk convention tea about Anime Boston. And as we were leaving the convention center, we also noticed like a lot of people just want to just hang out on the atrium part of the Prudential. And I thought it was very nice that we had the atrium open, because one thing that I'd like to mention that 2022 took place on Memorial Day weekend as opposed to April. Usually in early April, this atrium area is closed, and it was just really nice. Like, okay, you can step outside, soak up the sun, continue having living your cosplay life in the atrium. All right, 2023, we got an idol theme. What are your thoughts?
I think this could be fun. They usually, if we get back to a high level of decorating, you can get some cool looking like stage zones. You get some fun,
Pose with your waifu.
Pose with your waifu, I guess. I don't know. Like, this one's a weird one where I'm like...
Recording studio,
I guess. Now, if it was
School
me,
stage.
I would love them to do a parody of Miss Macross with Miss Anime Boston. I just don't know how many people would get that. But there's some fun with this. I'm curious to see kind of how many people are just going to be... Are we just going to be flooded with, like, Love Live people? Is that what's going to happen?
Idol is also very it's also very broad too. So you could bring Kotaru, I think his name is, from
Yep.
Zombieland Saga, and you were also joking about going as Kong Ming, ya boy Kong Ming,
Yeah. I don't know if I consider him an idol. He's more of a
tactician
tactician
who
DJ.
helps not Dua Lipa do stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll have to watch that anime because
Yeah.
I've been hooked by the opening theme, thanks to our friends at California Cosplay Gala. It's on High Dive, one of the sponsors of Anime Boston. High Dive did not pay us to say this, but High Dive, I'm looking forward to when you're available on the PlayStation for streaming, because that would make life easier for us to watch stuff on the RTVs. All right, looking forward to the Idol theme. Maybe I'll bust out Nico again because I got into Love Live while we were living in Boston. Nico was my first best girl. Maybe this can kind of give me the opportunity to also step it up in the Masters division because all my friends are like, when are you going to return to Masquerade? When are you going to return to Masquerade? We got to be buddies backstage. Like, you know what? Let me think about it. And this might be the year where I might return to Masquerade. All right, final thoughts of Anime Boston. And you can see us here in our mundane outfits, just hanging out at the atrium as cosplayers were surrounding us.
I'm going to give a little bit of, like, kind of, I don't want to call it constructive criticism per se, but just a few little minor points. There were a couple of panels I went to that weren't that great. There were some line issues here and there. But you know the one thing I'm going to say about Anime Boston? It has a great staff. And the staff pays attention to stuff. I'm sure they're aware of the crazy lines in some zones and the blocking of hallways. I'm sure they're aware of the panels that... And I'm hoping that they will, take that knowledge and make next year even better so that we can have, panels that everyone can enjoy and we can have hallways that we can get through without, craziness.
Yeah, the crowding was really bad on the Sheraton level, especially when you have like that ballroom and those two other panel rooms like in the center to Sheraton, and you also have that space for people trying to get registration. Mm-hmm. So I'm really hoping that they fix up traffic and just kind of like fix up crowding in that area because that can get pretty overwhelming. I was also caught off guard when they switched Artist Alley and the Dealer's Hall.
Yeah, that was weird.
That mentally just caught me off guard. But hopefully next year, flip them again, please.
That would be nice.
I mean, I really liked Artist Alley. I got a couple of Genshin Impact pins there. I got a couple of like Pride-related pins there since Anime Boston was really close to Pride this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, I got my buy badge. I got my buy cake earrings and necklace set because I got to show off my Pride. And I got my Distinguished Buy pin. So, yeah, I'm ready for Pride. And let's see. And then in the dealer's hall, picked up a crown for Bridgerton because I ended up going to the Bridgerton experience in Los Angeles. So accessorized for that. Otherwise, overall, I really enjoy this year's Anime Boston, even given with some of the places where they had to cut back. Like, yeah, I would have liked to seen more like foodie related decorations and foodie related more interactions, but I understand that like they only could do so much, just kind of cutting back and just kind of recovering.
Sorry, I had this image in my head of like them having like a big bowl of like clam chowder. If it's like but it's like has legs and arms and like a big smiley face on it. It's a stingy.
Oh my god,
the image is hilarious. Oh my god.
Oh, that would have been awesome. Like a chowder bowl, and you can like pose with
arms and legs. Like, yeah.
But you did have your chowder fix on day 0, and when we were leaving at the airport.
Yeah.
I love legal seafoods. Could go for some right now.
big chunks of clam. It's wonderful. Mm-hmm. None of this little West Coast, let's give you a grain of sand sized piece of clam.
But yeah, you and I think we can say we overall enjoyed Anime Boston 22.
It was a very enjoyable
We'll definitely be back in 2023. We love going to anime conventions. I just really feel that the model of anime conventions, where it's fans run by fans, is kind of like a dying art out here in Southern California. Because last I heard the anime convention that happened the weekend after Anime Boston, their programming lasted until 6 o'clock in the evening. Like, what's up with that? Anime Boston, I'm telling you, I stayed at a
2,
panel.
3 a.m., yeah.
They have like the rumpus room of Slumber Party, and I got professional development at 11 o'clock in the evening. Like, some of my favorite things at conventions happen during after hours. Any hoots? If you really like what you heard, support us on our Ko-Fi. You can also check out the links in the description on how to support us. We'll have our convention report within the next couple of days on our website, scarletrhapsody.com. You can follow us on our Twitch channel. I'm Dame Aznable. He's Dapper Bard's Tavern. And you can also hang out with us on our Discord channel. And what cons do we have coming up? Oh yeah, we got
Expo.
we got Expo. We're doing 2 panels at Anime Expo. You can catch our Make Mine Mecha panel over there, and you can also catch how to shop at the LA Fashion District. So I got some content to cover before now and then. And we'll also be at San Diego Comic-Con, also running the Make Mine Mecha panel.
Yay.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of like mecha heads right now. No, we only got confirmed for Make My Mecha, but we'll see.
We have a revised version of Final Fantasy, and I want to do it.
Yeah, I just kick Ifrit's butt in 14. That's how early on I'm in the game right now, people. I kicked his butt. Any hoots? Remember, the con is what you make of it, so make it a good one. And we'll see you at the con.